let's kick it off. And I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Leon Klempner right now, and he'll do the honors.
All right. Thanks, Lon. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am sitting here live from New York City on a beautiful summer day. High 70s, low humidity. It's a great day to get out. I hope that the weather is friendly to you wherever you are right now. So while people are joining, let me just introduce myself a little bit more formally. My name is Leon Klempner, and I'm a board certified orthodontist, retired from clinical practice. I practiced for about 40 years on Long Island. I'm also the CEO of People in Practice, and I am the co-host of the Golden Age of Orthodontics podcast, just approaching 1.5 million views. So if you haven't caught that, I would suggest you check that out. And I'm also privileged to serve as the director and the craniofacial orthodontist for Mount Sinai Hospital here in New York, as well as part-time faculty in the ortho departments of both Harvard and Montefiore. Shout out to the residents. If you are a first-time listener, welcome. We started this series because we wanted to explore things that are important to you as orthodontists. And today's webinar is part of our remote monitoring track, and it is sponsored by Grin. And if you stay to the end, there is an offer that Grin has if you have an interest in checking them out. So today, we're joined by Dr. Christine Hammer. She's a board certified orthodontist, and she's the founder of True Orthodontics in Duluth, Minnesota, where she's known for blending cutting edge technology with compassionate, individualized care. A very fine line and one that I want to really dig into. Christine's going to give us some firsthand experiences about using Grin. And she's a startup practice, so I think it's going to be particularly interesting how she's incorporating this early in her career and how she's able to really preserve the personal touch that distinguishes her practice, yet take advantage of all the cutting edge technology that's there. Welcome, Christine.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Klempner. I'm excited to be here and share a little bit about my journey with Grin with your listeners.
Great, great. So, Christine, so as you heard in my intro, I wear a lot of hats, but I'm primarily a marketer. Okay. And as the host, I did some research onto and evaluated your practice. I went online and I noticed that one of your key marketing messages is centered around this personal connection with patients. And when I was in practice, as we discussed earlier, that was important for me as well, because I'm a techie type of guy and I like the technology, but didn't want to lose that personal touch. So I have a two-part question. Number one is how do you do it? Now, how do you keep that personal touch while you're leaning into the technology? And secondarily, when you chose a remote monitoring partner, why Grin?
Great question. And I really can't emphasize enough, we have to be very intentional in our use of technology in our practices. We can't use it just because it's cool or everybody else is doing it. I think for me, the choice to use remote monitoring when starting this practice was really to supplement the core values and key messages that I really had built True North Orthodontics on. I practiced for about 10 years here in my hometown of Duluth in northern Minnesota and then opened True North Orthodontics about 3 years ago. I've been using Grin for about that amount of time, about 3 years for remote monitoring. With remote monitoring, in my mind, that really helps us to strengthen that personal touch factor with our patients. I really don't think, and especially with Grin, we don't need to worry about losing that. It's really about meeting our patients where they are at. So many of us now and so many of our patients and their parents communicate primarily by text. So Grin really helps us to meet people where they are at with that, as it kind of operates like a text box almost in terms of our communication there. Um, it also has remote monitoring offers a lot of convenience for our patients as well. Life is busy. As a parent, I understand that. And Grin helps to make orthodontic treatment more convenient and more accessible for a lot of people as well. And now that we've been using Grin for a little while, we've really seen that our patients, for the most part, love using Grin. You know, we get unsolicited Google reviews from them that specifically mention our remote monitoring technology and how much they enjoy that as a part of their experience as well. And now, as I've done so much talking, I've lost the second part of your question. Could you
Well,
repeat that?
I mean, why Grin, I guess was the
Yeah.
question and you pretty much, covered most of that. But I did want to touch upon something that stood out for me about Grin, which is this uh, what Grin calls their Grin Care Specialist, right? So I want you to tell us what that's about, because when I hear about that, I think about, either a chat or an AI bot, or, when I was started in practice, I had an answering service, doctor's office, name, that impersonal thing. So, what is the Grin Care Specialist, and are you using it?
Mhm. The Grin Remote Care Specialist, I'll start off with, is a real person that works for Grin and reviews scans on your behalf. We have been working with the Grin Remote Care Specialist for about a year and a half to maybe 2 years now. When I first started with Grin, either that wasn't something that was available yet or I wasn't aware of it. And because my practice was a from scratch startup, our team had time to be reviewing the scans, myself included. So that was something we were doing in-house. We had a team member move away from our practice who was kind of our primary Grin scan reviewer and overseer. And so that really necessitated our exploring the use of the Grin Remote Care Specialist. But it's a move I'm really glad we made. Um, like I mentioned, it's a real person that's overseeing scans and then bringing certain things to the attention of various team members or doctors within the practice based on what they're seeing in those scans. So there is still definitely that personal touch. It's not all AI. Grin has some great AI features that it's developed over the years and has really helped to improve their platform. But that's one thing I love about Grin is that there's still this element of personal connection, personal touch, and the Grin Remote Care Specialist really is someone that we consider a team member here at our practice. And we treat them and communicate with them as such. It's not just someone off in the cloud somewhere that we don't know. We make a point of touching base with that person. I think it's important when you incorporate a Grin Remote Care Specialist that you spend the time to establish your workflows with how you want Grin to respond to your patients or how they should address certain issues and filter that to various team members within your practice. And if you put in the time to set up those workflows very specifically, share those with your Grin Remote Care Specialist, introduce your in-office team members to that remote team member at Grin. That really helps to make the experience seamless. And I think it helps that Grin Remote Care Specialist understand your practice and how you communicate and care for your patients a lot better too.
So, Christine, is it usually the same human person? Is it like really almost part of your team?
Yes, we have had over the past year and a half two remote care specialists that work exclusively with, or that we work exclusively with. And so our patients really come to know that remote care specialist as well because they're communicating with them a lot over the Grin platform along the way as well. We're able to have Zoom calls as needed with our Grin remote care specialist if there's something new that's come up or we've decided we'd like to handle something a little bit different. Then we can reach out to them, reestablish our workflows, and really try and incorporate them into our practice and feel like they're a team member here as well. I think that nowadays, too, our team members, our patients, ourselves, we're used to working with people remotely. just as I sit here and speak with you over Zoom. So I think we're past this point of thinking, okay, there's no personal connection because it's remote. There's still very much that personal connection, but you need to do the work on the front end in order to establish that appropriately.
Yeah, well, I love that because well, one of the things I didn't mention in my bio, in my retired life, is I'm also on the executive board of the New York State Society of Orthodontists. So I
Okay.
serve on that. So I'm talking to orthos in my state all the time. And what comes up over and over again is I can't find staff. I can't find qualified people to come into my practice. I got a call actually, I think it was 2 weeks ago from an orthodontist in California, and his question really was more consultative than marketing. He was asking, he just lost a staff member, and he didn't know whether to replace that person with hiring somebody, or whether there was a way of outsourcing without losing that personal attention. So I think it's a great thing to be able to outsource this, yet not lose this to some anonymous, bot or something that is answering those things. Um, I do want to ask you another question, which is when part of my job, many of you think that this is an easy job. This is not an easy job that I do here. It may seem like this is easy for me, but I have to do research. I have to kind of learn about the topic so I don't seem like an idiot when I'm up here. So I did some research, and I went and I looked at Grin, and I looked through some of their literature and some of the articles, and I was expecting to see this is a remote monitoring company. There are a number of them out there, remote monitoring companies. But I found that it's a lot more than that. And I think the perception of most orthodontists is that it's just remote monitoring. So, what would you say to somebody that thinks that it's just another remote monitoring tool?
Well, I think that you make a good point. Grin is a lot more than just remote monitoring. That's kind of where it all started, I'm sure. But when you decide to use a remote monitoring platform, when you decide to use Grin, I think it's crucial to jump all in with that, because otherwise you won't be able to realize and appreciate all of the functionality and abilities that does have. And I think the same is true with anything else you use in your practice, whether it's your custom bracket system or whatever type of aligner you choose to use. I think dabbling here and there with those different things, you won't be able to appreciate the true benefit of those. It can become more of a nuisance then too, if it's something you kind of do here and there and on the side. And so we really did jump all in with Grin when we first started using that about 3 years ago. And we've taken advantage of their increasing capabilities and product functions as Grin has intentionally developed over the years too. Grin has the ability to do remote consultations as well. That has been really helpful for us, especially, well, in a couple scenarios, really. It's been very helpful for younger siblings of patients that are already in treatment. Their family is already familiar with our practice. They know they like it. Do they really need to take Johnny out of school to come in for the consultation? And we say, well, if you like, you can start by sending in a Grin scan, and then we can review that. It's myself reviewing the scan on the screen with the patient and parent, pausing to point out what we're seeing orthodontically. And we do always give of course, mention this diagnosis, and any treatment plan is not finalized until we see you for radiographs, but it gives them a great idea of what the preliminary orthodontic issues are, if any early treatment or any treatment is beneficial, what that would look like too. We also, for some of our referring general dentists in the area, bring Grin scopes to their office. We say, if you have a patient that you think could benefit from, is interested in orthodontic treatment, they're maybe a little on the fence, give them this scope. It has a QR code on it with the instructions, so it's not extra work on the dentist's part. Patient can go home and take a scan at their convenience. We review it in the office. They get to see me and see on the screen what their orthodontic issues are. I present their tentative diagnosis and treatment plan. Then my treatment coordinator follows up on Grin with sharing some more specifics of treatment, the financial information. Then they know, okay, is this something I may be interested in? And if they are, they can make that next step to come into our office for full diagnostic records. So I really advise leaning into that remote consultation part of Grin as well. Putting that on your website, on your social media. It makes it easy access for patients. And for some patients, that's just the stepping stone they need as well.
Yeah. I gave a lecture at the AAO meeting in Philly this year on AI. AI is like a hot topic everywhere. So there was a lot of interest. And my takeaway message during the lecture was that, technology should support but not replace the doctor-patient relationship. Don't be afraid of the technology, but use the technology. You should support the team, not replace the team. Allow focus on personal attention. So I put up this formula that I thought I invented. Now I see it all over the place, so I know I didn't invent it. But it said AI plus HI meaning human intelligence, is better than each one independently alone. So when I did my research on Grin, I saw something relating to AI because I'm interested in that, and it was something they called AI CoPilot. Now, help me understand, is that the same as a Grin specialist? Does it work with a Grin specialist? So take me let's pull the curtain back into your office, and tell me what happens with using Grin and using these two areas in particular.
Mhm. Well, the Grin AI CoPilot and then the Grin Remote Specialist are two separate features that can work together. And really, the AI CoPilot is something your team can utilize too to enhance the use of Grin in your office. So we have the Grin Remote Care Specialist, which is a person that's helping with reviewing of scans, bringing things to your attention and to the attention of your team. And then we have the Grin AI CoPilot, which is a recent feature that Grin has released. And it really helps to automatically direct certain types of scans, scans that might need attention, whether it's broken bracket or something of that nature, to the appropriate party within the office. Bring that to your team's attention more rapidly because it uses these AI features in order to direct that. The Copilot also offers a really nice summary of a lot of things within your practice as far as scans reviewed, what types of scans reviewed. It uses AI to summarize patient satisfaction as well. Some other AI features that Grin employs has to do with monitoring oral hygiene and able to bring hygiene alerts to our attention for our patients so that we can respond appropriately through Grin, or our remote care specialist can respond appropriately through Grin with brushing instructions and whatnot as well. So it really is, the AI Copilot is really augmenting our human intelligence use of Grin, whether it's doing a more efficient job of bringing certain issues to the attention of our team in the office or to our Grin Remote Care Specialist team member. So we've just really started using that Copilot feature. And now as we are getting more comfortable with that and learning the ins and outs of it, we're seeing how that really helps to improve our experience as well. So the AI Copilot is not replacing that personal touch component that either our team in the office or the remote care specialist brings to the table, but it's helping to elevate that experience and make things a little more efficient too.
So the AI co-pilot can, let's say, read a scan and highlight certain areas that we might want to look at. Is that how it works?
Certain areas, whether it's hygiene, maybe specific aligner seat areas.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still, if you were utilizing a Grin remote care specialist in your practice as well, that person is still reviewing those scans too. It can just help to kind of bring that to our attention a little bit more rapidly.
So the Grin specialist might use it to alert him or her, and then they could either deal with it if they knew how to deal with it, or they would contact you and ask you how you would want to deal with it, something like that.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So you don't really lose control. You just have a lot of things working on your behalf that allow you to sit at the chair and see patients and talk to patients and not have to, study all
See
these
scans.
things. So,
That's right. It
yep.
really helps it to more Grin to integrate more seamlessly into the practice because the AI CoPilot allows you to have a lot of the information from the scans kind of right at your fingertips as well.
So, I mean, I'm going to ask you like, maybe more personal question, because I'm thinking our listeners in your position, let's say some of them are startups, some of them are seasoned practitioners. Were you ever really concerned that you might lose that personal touch if you were incorporating, or outsourcing and using the tools that Grin provides? Was that ever a concern of yours?
I think maybe very briefly. Um, but as I mentioned before, I think that because our society, our culture is so used to operating in this type of remote space that there is not felt any loss of personal connection. As long as your team and you as the doctor oversee Grin appropriately, integrate the Grin team appropriately, your remote care specialist, your patients are still going to feel that same connection with you. And maybe more so than they would have if you weren't using remote monitoring, because it gives your patient a convenient way to communicate with you. For example, if patient has a something that's bothering them, you know, without remote monitoring, they would give your office a call, tying up your front desk team member, saying, Johnny has something that's bothering him. I'm not sure what it is. And here's your scheduling coordinator trying to diagnose what the issue is. If Johnny needs to be seen, if he doesn't, we're not really sure. Our first What we teach our patients is that if you have a question with your appliances or an issue in between your regularly scheduled Grin scans, send a scan to us. You can push a scan through anytime, and that should be your kind of first thing that you do. And so they have the ability to take their scan, they can select mark as urgent, and type their message about what they are concerned about. That comes through to us. It brings it to the top of our queue and the top of our Grin Remote Specialists queue. And then we're able to truly see and understand what the issue is. It eliminates that communication barrier between patient and orthodontist. That way we can say, okay, if this is bothering Johnny, let's have him come in. Our team knows exactly what to expect and be prepared. Or if it's not bothering the patient, we can say, this is something we can address at your next scheduled appointment. Then that avoids clogging your schedule up with unnecessary comfort visits, and really helps to make the patient and parent feel like, okay, my doctor saw this, they know what's going on. I'm okay continuing to move about my day.
Yeah. Yeah, as you speak about that, image comes to mind where when I was in practice, where I'd get a call like on a Sunday evening from a parent, and Johnny can't eat, he can't sleep, he can't go to school, the wire is sticking out. I said, okay, it sounds like somebody that needs to be seen, and I would meet them in the office. Sometimes I would meet them give them my home address because I'd have like tools there if I needed to clip a wire or something. But most of the time I would go in and usually drag one of my kids or my wife, so I wasn't by myself, and then find that it was like it was a ligature wire, you know. I said,
Yeah.
I said, you know, just take an eraser and just push it in, see, you know, that type of thing. So I can definitely appreciate, knowing what's coming in the door. And the same is true, like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you bring an emergency in, expecting to be one bracket that you're going to repair, and then, you know, six brackets are loose, or the Herbst appliance is hanging out, and
Yeah.
now you're in for, you know, overtime. Let's just put it that way. So,
Right.
Christine, I'm going to shift gears again because I know
Okay.
time's running out, and I'm a data guy. Okay. You know, Amy and I formed this marketing company based on data. You know, I get calls all the time, my marketing from people that are concerned about their marketing. My marketing isn't working. You know, we want to switch to you, or can you help me? The first thing I do is say, time out. He says, you know, let's look at some data. You know, let's see what's going on. Certainly, you know, we want to look at the marketing and how many calls and all the different marketing metrics. But, you know, what's going on between the call and the exam? You know, where are the leaky buckets? What's going on between the exam and the consult? What's the conversion rate? You know, how many starts coming out of recall? You know, these are all data points that are important. So I know that there are probably listeners that are as, uh, obsessed as I am about data. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot just a little bit. And I wondered
Okay.
if you could give us some hard data or some examples, um, for those of us that might be a little bit skeptical about investing money into this new technology and not really seeing any benefit out of it. And specifically, if we have time, it doesn't have to take long, but specifically, how did it impact your schedule, your team, or even some of your patient outcomes?
Mhm. Great question. And don't worry about putting me on the spot. I with incorporating remote monitoring from the very beginning of starting True North Orthodontics a few years ago, I knew when I opened this practice that I really wanted it to be one that would allow me to still maintain a balance, whatever that means, between personal life and practice life, still allow me to enjoy clinical practice and to practice in the way that really felt good to me and allowed me to deliver great clinical results and to build meaningful relationships with my patients, their family, and my team members too. And so when I opened my practice, I set up the schedule in a way where I would be seeing patients 2 days a week. My team members would be here on some of the other days, depending on. And I really hope to keep it at about that schedule as long as I really could. Um, and incorporating remote monitoring made a lot of sense with making that happen. And it's something we've been able to maintain through really rapid growth of our practice over the last 3 years. And I think that Grin has played a huge part in that because we do use it to the fullest extent of its capabilities. And you have to be able to trust the remote monitoring. If you don't schedule your appointments appropriately, knowing that you're using remote monitoring in between in-office appointments, you are not going to realize the efficiencies of it. It's not going to be worth it for you. So, for example, for our aligner patients, when they start their aligner treatment, we give them however many sets of aligners that they have in that first series. And we don't see them back in the office until we have to physically do something, whether it's IPR or it's time for a refinement scan. That means sometimes we might not schedule them back for 5, 6 months. That was uncomfortable for me at first. Um, but now that we've been doing that for a while, I've seen that that's effective. We're watching every 2 weeks on Grin. And so if something does get off track, we catch that early on. The remote care specialist brings that to our attention. We review that and decide how we want to proceed with that. So that really frees up the appointments available in our clinical schedule for patients that are starting treatment, finishing treatment. We really make it a point to try and only schedule in-office appointments when something needs to be physically done or adjusted with the patient's teeth or appliances pertaining to their treatment. So, for example, expander checks, that is definitely a thing of the past for us. We do that through Grin. Um, Class 2 correction, whether it's with, carrying motion or whatever you happen to be using, we watch that through Grin as well. And it has, within the patient's Grin profile, you can select certain goals. So notify me when the patient is class 1 or something, and then you can say, okay, we need to change their appointment based on this information. Um, so it really helps us to use our team members as well to the fullest extent of their capabilities and license, which allows us to maintain that clinical schedule that we do.
Did you get any pushback from your team when you incorporated this, or did you start out with it and then added team members? I know that oftentimes, I'll speak for myself. I'll come back from a meeting and I want to incorporate some change. And, in the back, I'll hear whispering that, he always comes back with ideas, wait a week and it'll blow over type of thing. Did you get any pushback about this, or fear of losing your job because of this or anything like that?
No. And I think that's because I did incorporate it so early on in my practice when we had very few team members,
Hmm.
but also, and of course we've added team members since then. The team really buys in to how we practice and our core values, and it's clear how Grin supplements or augments, fits into our core values and the way we practice. Grin remote monitoring is also a wonderful teaching tool for your team members. Whether it's teaching someone that's brand new to orthodontics that's starting in your practice, here's what an aligner looks like when it's not tracking. Here's what it looks like when someone's wearing their aligners really well. It's great for teaching your front desk team about clinical issues too. Um, so no, I mean, I have such a wonderful team and they really support the mission and vision of our practice. So I'm very fortunate that they are all in terms of accepting Grin and using it like it's intended to be used. They also come up with new ways of how we can better use Grin. And I think that's another beauty of working with a company that is relatively new and still innovating so much too, is that Grin is really open to our feedback and suggestions for how to make the product better. It's so easy to get a hold of your representative or your remote care specialist with any ideas or issues that you might have as well.
So Christine, there are a few remote monitoring companies out there. I'm sure they're all good at what they do. And, you were evaluating this. Did you consider costs, let's say, when you were making a decision? How did that play into it?
Yes, especially as a startup practice, that was something that played a big part in my decision. And I have to be totally transparent that when I first made the decision to use Grin about 3 years ago, the cost was substantially less at that time than other companies I could use. And that was a big part of my decision. Another big part was that I knew my team at the time, and then later on, the Grin Remote Care Specialist would be personally evaluating these scans that were coming through as well. So while there is an AI component to it, I knew that it wasn't only AI that was being used as well. I
Yeah.
think it was that AI only part that made me more nervous about losing personal connection or oversight and control on certain things. But with Grin, I know we maintain the personal connection, and we also are still overseeing kind of the whole platform as a whole. We don't miss things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's a consideration of certainly cost is, as well as not losing that personal touch, but particularly for your office, because that's your brand, you know. I mean,
Right.
that is what you stand for. So, you know, in marketing, you know, we help practices, you know, uncover what their differentiator is. What are they really good at? So, you know, and that's the North Star where we do all the marketing. And if it's not consistent, if you do all this marketing and then you come in and it's not you know, it's not the same. They're not getting what they think they're getting, then you can spend all the marketing in the world. It doesn't work. So for you, you know, it's a big deal to trust a company that won't, you know, contradict your brand, so to speak.
That's right. You put a lot into your brand and marketing, but you have to deliver. When someone comes in the door, if they've seen your Instagram page before, been on your website, when they walk in, it better feel just like how it felt to them when they were scrolling through your feed. And that's something we really strive for here. I mean, maybe the first thing I did was sit down and write our mission, vision, and core values. And our team knows that every decision, if you don't know how to decide on something, consult the core values, and that should help to guide your decision. So Grin has played really nicely into our core values and maintaining our brand integrity and our culture.
Well, you're so smart and you're so young. I'm jealous about that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not as young as I look. That's really kind.
Well, I don't know. You know, it took me 40 years in the profession before I come to some of those conclusions. So I give you a lot of credit. So I know I want to leave time because I know that our attendees are going to have questions, of course. But before we turn it over, um, I want to give you an opportunity for those listeners that are curious but hesitant, or those that are kind of like dipping their toe in the water and are not fully committed. What would your advice be to them?
Do it. And when you decide to embrace remote monitoring, jump all in. Use your remote monitoring platform to the fullest extent of its capabilities. Trust it, lean on it, and that's when you will realize all of the benefits of that too. And another key thing with integrating remote monitoring, if as in integrating anything else into your practice, really think through the workflows, bring your team into the conversation first as well, and establish in all areas how that remote monitoring is going to fit in the clinic, at your front desk, for you as the doctor. If you are working with Grin and a Grin remote care specialist, have diagrams and workflows laid out for how they should address certain situations. And that's when you'll really get the most, and your patients and team will get the most out of your remote care monitoring as well.
Well, Christine, thank you so
Thank
much for
you for
joining
having
us.
me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I know that our listeners have gained important insights in this discussion. And I'm going to change my formula actually from AI plus HI to staff plus Grin Care Specialist plus AI is better than
Excellent.
each one alone.
I agree. I
There you go.
agree.
So thank you so much. So I'm going to open it up to some questions, but before I do, I want to let you know that there is a special limited time offer offered by Grin. If you don't already use Grin in your practice, go to People in Practice, PPL Practice website on our partner page. It's PPL Practice // partners. There'll be a form there, and there's a special 35% off of your initial package. So very generous for Grin. Thank you. So, okay, I'm going to turn it back to Lon and we'll entertain some questions.
Great, great conversation. I do have some questions, so get ready. Uh, the first one is probably for Christine, Dr. Hammer. What are some of the other tools that come with using Grin?
Great. I think I touched on the remote consultation capabilities. Grin also has the ability to be utilized for patients in retention and patients in your growth and development or observation program within your office as well. We lean, and especially over the last year, we've started to lean really heavily into Grin for our patients in our growth and development observation program, as well as retainer check programs too. So a retainer check or an OBS patient, unless they are having a radiograph that's being taken, we ask them to send in a Grin scan instead of coming into the office for that appointment. Grin also, just like for their remote consultation, for any scan a patient submits, whether they're in active treatment or retention or observation, you're able to record yourself reviewing the scan. And so I do that for our observation patients a lot too, so that the child and their parent can hear me and then see me review the scan, marking on it certain things as far as what I'm looking at orthodontically. And then they can view that whenever they have time, whether it's after dinner, before they go to school in the morning. And that helps us to maintain that connection with the patients too, because sometimes your OBS patients, maybe it's you're scheduling a year between checks and then they don't show up for that check a year from now because they forgot why that was important. Grin makes it easy for them, and it also allows you to spend that time with reinforcing what you're watching, why it's important, how they'll benefit from treatment in the future. And they have something that they can watch anytime or rewatch anytime they want to as well. Grin also allows you to securely share a patient's scan with other dental professionals as well. That's been helpful in communicating with dentists about future restorative treatment. In some cases, communicating with the oral surgeon as well. We're able to send that Grin scan with our comments, and that way the dentist can view what the patient's presentation is without them needing to come into the dentist's office for an appointment too. If the dentist sees the scan and says, I still want to evaluate this in person, they can, of course, but maybe it saved that dentist an appointment in their schedule as well. So that's been really helpful for maintaining strong relationships with our referring dentists as well.
If I could add to that, I just want to rewind back to the observation, the growth monitoring patients. This is a huge leaky bucket for
Yes.
orthos. We have at People in Practice 100 or so ortho offices, so we collect a lot of data. And I could tell you when I sit down and we go over the data together with our clients, I always ask about the recalls and how many starts are coming out of recall. If you look at the gauge data, they're recommending that 25% of your monthly start should come out of your observation. Now, I know when I was in practice, if I did a lot of early treatment, but I know a lot of orthodontists don't. And if you don't do any early treatment and you are seeing an 8-year-old and you're not going to start treatment till they're maybe closer to 11, either you're seeing them every year or you're seeing them every 3 or 4 months. Either way, you lose people. Parents don't like to come every 6 months, which is typical. If you don't want to lose a patient, you want to bring them back in. And they look exactly the same as they did 6 months earlier. And parents aren't dumb. They're saying, I took off from work, I took my kid out of school. Do I have to come every 6 months? And if you go every year or every year and a half or whatever, then you run the risk they forget who you are. So there's this leaky bucket there, particularly if you're not treating any of these younger patients, that this really helps because it's a way of nurturing them along the way and giving them a reason to stay connected to the practice. So they feel they're already part of the practice. So I didn't even know about that, the ability to record and send that off. I think that's really valuable, particularly for partners. to share with your partner as to why this office, why we're going to this office, questions that they may have. So um, great.
Yes, you make a good point there too, Dr. Klempner, with, both parents. It's hard a lot of times for both parents to be able to come to an appointment and then for ask mom to relay to dad something. Things get lost in translation, and so Grin is an excellent tool to be able to do that as well. And that's something, even if a patient has come into the office for an in-office consultation with mom says they need to go talk to dad, I can go ahead and record myself going over the patient's in-office records using the Grin platform. We can send that to the parents so that both parents are able to view that at home as well and make a decision together. So that's been a great way to maintain good communication and help the family along in that process as well.
This is kind of like a follow-up question, I guess, to what you were just talking about. But someone asked if you can live video screen share with Grin, or do you have to have you have to open Zoom or Google Meet or whatever to do that? Is that
It's
something that's able?
Great question. It's the ability to record yourself reviewing a scan is within the Grin platform. So you're not opening up Zoom or Google Meet or Teams or whatever it might be. Um, and so, yes, it is a live recording then that you can do. And there's an easy button you press by the scan that says scan review, and you go ahead and record. And the patient's scan of their teeth is on the screen as well. You can pause it whenever you want, you can draw on it. And when the patient views your scan review, they see both your face, they hear you talking, and then they see you manipulating their scan as well and pointing out various things to them.
Okay, great. Another question is, do you charge a fee for the growth/development patients? I guess using this.
No, we don't. So for any patient utilizing Grin, which is pretty much all of the patients in our practice, it's not an add-on feature or anything like that. For patients in active treatment, it's included within their treatment fee. So plan your fees accordingly. And also for our patients in a growth and development program and observation, no, we don't charge them for that. It's a low annual fee that you pay per patient for observation. So it's pretty easy to absorb. And if you think about otherwise that patient would be coming into your office, think about what you're paying your team and whatnot too. I think that it makes a lot of sense to use Grin for your patients in observation as well. And then when they do start treatment, that probably covers the cost of what you put into the observation Grin monitoring as well.
And from a marketing perspective, we like to counsel our clients not to charge for that initial visit or the
Mhm.
recall visits, because yes, it's a revenue source, but in the long run, it's also another obstacle for a new patient to get started. And after all, what we're looking for is a full case start, not a short-term amount. But I understand, the value of it, and I don't want to underestimate the time that we spend, but from a marketing standpoint, it makes more sense to do it without making a charge.
Agreed. Yes. Another thing I'll mention too, kind of along some of those lines, is we see a lot of patients from a pretty great distance away from our office as well, just due to where we're located. And so, especially for patients in aligner treatment with us that live a reasonable distance from the office, they find Grin especially helpful in their treatment. Even for patients in fixed appliances, where Grin might not greatly change the interval in your in office visits, for patients that drive a distance to come see you, remote monitoring they consider especially helpful too, because that way, if they do have a broken bracket or something, they know, do I actually have to make this drive to come have this repaired, or is it something that can wait? So if you live in an area where you see a lot of patients that drive a ways to your office, it's really valuable to them as well.
This is going to be going back a question. It's an announcement from Grin that live video appointments are coming very soon, and it's currently
Mhm.
in beta. So it will be hosted directly on the Grin platform and will be fully HIPAA compliant, and no additional accounts or logins will be needed. It's in beta. So that was a message from them.
Very cool. I didn't know
Yeah.
that, and sorry that I
Mhm.
misunderstood the previous question.
No, that's all right. Yep. So it's a good clarifying question. Okay, we have time for one more question, I think. We have a few minutes left. And I'm going to take a person's question they asked in two parts and kind of combine them and see if you can answer them. This is going to be a challenge. Okay, so what type of appointments do you feel like you could save by using Grin? Are your number of treatment appointments reduced? And second part of another question, have you changed to a more on-demand type of scheduling? For example, after Grin Care Specialist tells you that the wire is passive, or have you maintained your previous scheduling intervals? So they're kind of related, but see if you can tackle that one.
Yes. As far as the number of appointments during treatment, for aligner patients, yes, I can confidently say that is greatly reduced because we use Grin. Because I've used Grin since I started my practice, I don't have a lot of data to compare to from this practice before then. But speaking from previous years of practice before I opened True North Orthodontics, for our fixed appliance patients, we do also see a fewer number of in-office visits because we're able to eliminate some of those comfort appointments we might have seen in the office otherwise that were maybe unnecessary. I also feel more comfortable going a longer interval between appointments earlier on in treatment when we have those initial wires in place, really letting them express before we see the patient back, because I know that we're using Grin to monitor hygiene and class correction with elastics as well. To your second question with on-demand appointment scheduling, I haven't gotten there yet. It's something I've considered for a while now. Um, but there's something about the patient having that appointment scheduled and on the books that just makes me feel more comfortable. I worry about someone maybe getting lost in the shuffle or not scheduling, not coming back. So we do have patients always schedule their next in-office appointment before they leave the office. But if we see something on Grin that allows us to be able to push that out further, or maybe we need to see them a little bit sooner, Grin allows us to make an informed decision about how we can adjust that in-office appointment as well.
So
Great. Okay. Yeah,
Lon,
I was going to
before
say that's the last question we have. Over to you, Dr. Klempner.
Yeah, before we
Mm.
close, I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Christine. I appreciate your honesty and how open you were about discussing all the different topics. And I'm sure our listeners really appreciate the information that you provided. Um, I just want to say that, on our podcast and to our clients, I talk a lot about the digital office. And I can't stress enough that um, it's is the practice of how it's going to be. It's going to be the standard of care. And the quicker that we get into it, the better. So it's going to be, if it's not already in many offices, one scan, it's either going to be custom appliances or it's going to be aligners, and it's going to be remote monitoring. I mean, you can do your research and decide who you want to use, and hopefully this is helpful to you. But we can't shy away from it. It is the way it's going to be. So we have to accept it and move ourselves forward. And lastly, it's never been a better time to be an orthodontist. This is a golden age. We need to take advantage of it. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Lon, any closing remarks?
No, just Dr. Hammer, how can people get in touch with you if they have additional questions about Grin?
Great. Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Klempner, for having me. I'm honored to be on this webinar. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And please don't hesitate to reach out if I can clarify anything or if you have any further questions. Email is the best way to get a hold of me. That's drhammer@truenorthsmiles.com. Thanks.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. All right, so that's all the time we have. Thank you both our hosts for giving us all that information. It's been great. And the recording will be available to everybody post this webinar, and we'll be sending out some links. So, all right. Thank you very much. And goodbye, everybody.